Welcome to Changing Suits. We're your hosts, Bal
and Taj, discussing the latest news, views, and general life for us Western Asians.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Val.
And my name's Taj.
Today we will be discussing International Women's Day, which falls on Tuesday the 8th. Now, the funny thing is, we started this podcast on a bit of a fight between me and Taj, where it's just ended just before I started recording by her saying, "You're going to start your period." And this is the sort of comments that we are not going to accept now, since we are about to talk about International Women's Day. Would you like to say anything, Taj?
What?
Anyway, let's move on from that. Okay, so International Women's Day. How is it that you're going to celebrate in 2022 the day which is all about women? Because every other day isn't.
I'm going to make sure that I'm nice to myself.
How about you be nice to me?
No, because I've had enough of being nice to everyone else. I'm going to be nice to myself. I'm never nice to myself. And this International Women's Day, I'm actually going to do that. And I'm actually going to be open about how I feel. And if someone annoys me, and not accept when someone is out of order to me. That is how I'm going to be kind to myself as a woman.
Okay.
And yourself?
In that case, will you acknowledge when you're being unkind to someone else? Anyway.
I don't need to be unkind to someone else to be kind to myself.
Well, then maybe you need to apologise to me.
I'm not apologising.
Okay, fine. Okay, so the theme of this International Women's Day, which, to be fair, I only realised it was International Women's Day because, now we're doing the podcast, staying on beat with, it's International Women's Day. Oh my God, it's Valentine's Day. Oh, it's Mother's Day. It's quite nice actually knowing what's going on in the year without actually stumbling on the day and then buying a present for whoever's birthday it is that day. This year, the theme is breaking bias. Now, if you look at the website, which I did when I had a quick bit of research for this podcast, it's not only breaking the bias of gender, which we well know, especially in the South Asian community, there is a massive gender bias, but also other biases, race, religion, so on and so forth. So it's a really open one, especially at a time where there are big things happening in the world. You've got the war between Russia and Ukraine and, racism left, right and centre. So it's quite a nice thing to acknowledge that for one day, maybe we should be nice, even though we're not going to be. Are you going to be discussing it with your daughter?
I am not going to say, oh, hello, it's International Women's Day today. Because, like you said, I think it should be something that is known generally that that she should appreciate herself and others around her. So I don't think it's going to be made a big deal of.
But do you think on that point that we should be saying it? It's like a birthday. Hey, it's your birthday. Maybe we should be making a big deal because we should be taking advantage of this day and saying, do you know what? The amount that women have put themselves through and do put themselves through and how far they have come from where they were in society.
But I don't think I need to label it on a particular day because we do it quite often and it's a day-to-day learning. And my son learns as well because I think he appreciates even though he's 6, the female role and how important that is. I mean, even in the community, we've seen so many South Asian women doing so well and it's amazing. And one of them that I can think of from the top of my head, and she isn't doing something that's very, let's say, in the world would have been, hey, women do this, is the weightlifter. Her name is Karanjeet Bains, and she's done really well in and is doing really well in weightlifting. And the reason why I mentioned her and I thought about her in particular is because one day I was walking with my daughter back from school, and she was just saying how she's not good at running. And I said to her, "Don't worry, you
Did you
can't
call
be."
her Forrest Gump then?
No, because that's evil. I said, "You can't be good at everything."
Or anything? No, we're joking. Are you joking?
You're just
I'm only
bleep.
kidding. She's gonna hate me,
Anyway,
but if she hears this, she's gonna want to kill me. Go on, carry on.
and I'm not going to stop her.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
I
And
love you. I love you. I love you. There we are. Not you. I meant
me, yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like you'd say it to me. But anyway.
Not today, just because he had a fight. Go on, carry on.
So basically, so she wasn't good at running. And I said to her, you can't be good at everything. And then for some reason, I was looking at Karen G. I think it was Instagram. And basically, it sounds like she's a very rounded person. She's brilliant at sports. She's brilliant. She's got an amazing job. And this is a woman I would say is doing well in quite a lot of different areas in her life, from obviously that can be seen from social media. So well done to her, and well done for actually showing us that it's not just a man's sport, that women in the South Asian community can do that as well. I remember one of my nieces in Canada used to lift weights, and
Oh yeah, does she still do that?
I'm not quite sure. Basically, at the time, I remember I was like, "Oh, why is she doing that? That's a man's sport." And I did think that, and that was because we were brought up to think that it's a man's sport, but it isn't. This particular lady has done so well in it.
I mean, on that point, today, for example, we do a few after school clubs with the kids, and one of them is we've started a Muay Thai class for, I think that's how you say it, Muay Thai class for the kids, both for my son and my daughter. Now, last week, Suk took my son out, and because my daughter didn't want to go because it's too cold outside in in the shed, and my son wanted to do it, so he did a bit of training, a bit of practicing for his Muay Thai. But today we made my daughter go as well. She moaned a bit, but she was all right. She went out, and then afterwards they came back in and they did some sparring. And my daughter was like, "Oh no, I don't want to do it," but we made her do it, and she did actually really enjoy it when she started doing it. But this is the thing. I think you've got to push. I don't know if it's a natural thing actually, or she just might be a bit lazy like me, where she doesn't want to do it. No, I go with the second one. I don't think everyone's like that. But we have to push our kids, regardless of whether the daughters or sons. I mean, I always find it really unequal if I'm making my son do something and my daughter's not doing it. I feel really bad. Although he then hates me because he thinks he's drawing the short straw, and I'm like, but you're learning something and she's not. Yeah, I just find it really tough in regards to that.
Well, saying that, do you remember this weekend we had all of us round, and we were a bit biased in what we were going to do with the kids? Do you remember?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So basically, we were like, right, okay, so you guys came over, and other sister's family came over, and the thing was, you suggested this, might I say? The girls can stay at home.
Whoa!
The girls can stay at home and we can go for a coffee.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else will realise the fact that you've just taken a swipe at me.
And the boys can go shooting. To be honest, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, I'm sure they'll like to go for Costa Coffee. I did not think anything of it. And one of the girls goes,
No, hold on. I actually said, do you think this is really sexist that we're sending the boys?
oh God, yeah, we did talk about it, didn't we?
Oh, so there we are. Now all of a sudden I've turned from the person that made this situation into the one that was in fact very much thinking about the inequality of this whole situation. Yes, go and carry on.
And I said, what did I say? I don't remember that bit.
Yes.
But anyway, but it was funny. The girls picked up, they go, why are you being sexist? Why are the boys going and the girls aren't?
Yeah, and this is something that we wouldn't have done if we were in the younger generation. It's true. Things have changed.
And we did feel bad after that, because we thought, in our days, we would have just gone along where the parents told us to go along. But these days, kids are so different.
They actually tell us.
They're so annoying.
It is really annoying. Yeah, fair enough.
But anyway, in the end,
none of the kids went.
Yeah, pretty much. but one of them went. But that's because he was the oldest child, and he would have got bored with the rest of them. But it's funny that the girls picked that up and the
So
boys
do you
didn't.
think? So do you think, as we go on and the generations start going on, equality may well be reached?
I think with the generation coming, yes, it is more in the mind that, hey, like for example, if I tell my daughter to put away the dishes, I just do it because she's older, but she'll be like, no, you haven't asked, my son to do it. And then it's the whole, that's not fair just because he's a boy. And I'm like, I wasn't even thinking that. It's just because you're older.
She's using it
Yeah. Oh, actually, she
against
might
you,
be.
so she can
But
sit down and go watching TV.
it just shows awareness, doesn't it? That
Yeah,
children are more aware. Maybe because we're doing more things where we're like, the boys
but
and
do
the
you think?
girls should be doing the same thing.
But do you think? See, it's interesting you say that because then it's the girls that are picking up on it. I think the boys just go along with whatever we tell them to do. To be fair, and they don't maybe pick up on it, and maybe that's something we need to start working on as well. Because the girls are picking up on we're being out of order to them, which we don't do it on purpose, by the way. I know this sounds like we're just trying to raise awareness and raise our own self awareness that we did this. Um,
But it might be the boys weren't aware of it because they were going to go and do a fun thing and they didn't care what they were going to do, the girls.
Maybe.
So that could be the other thing basically to it. But I do think that there's a thing that the girls are more aware of it than the boys. Probably
Yeah, I
because
think
there
so.
is a certain amount of sexism, which we don't mean there to be, like you just said, but it just happens to be.
But I think we're quite, although we say the odd thing, I don't think we're that where
I
we put the boy. I really don't. In that case, where have the girls got it in their mind that, oh, how comes you're letting the boys do this and we have to do this?
No, you are right. I don't know, to be honest, because both the kids, they do martial arts. So my daughter and my son do martial arts, and I tell my daughter more than my son, who's not really bothered about my stories, about how all of us done some sort of form of martial arts, and she really finds that inspiring. And she wants to, and both of them actually, more my son wants to listen to stories about women, and that's a thing in itself. He says, oh, can I listen to this particular story about a strong woman, which I
But do
think
you?
is amazing.
Okay, so before I had kids, one thing I said, I remember, was I don't want to put boys in blue and girls in pink. I think we've discussed this previously, but automatically, it sort of ended up happening like that. And then all of a sudden, the girl's favorite color is pink and the boy's favorite color is blue, and all this sort of stuff. Although
So,
now it's obviously turning where the girls are saying like, "Oh, I don't like pink." Even my own daughter's saying here, she's like, "I like yellow," which is fine.
well, for me, the colour thing was never an issue. It was more the rest of the family that were really freaked
Oh
out
yes,
by it, because I used to put pink on my son as a hand me down. And that was because we used to live in Norway and we used to wear wool as our base layer, and it was expensive, so I wasn't going to go and buy some more just so he didn't wear pink. I just put it on him. But the funny thing was, when I used to phone home and phone my dad, he was like, why have you put pink on your son? Like, okay, dad, I'm really sorry.
you should have just told him you were being cheapskate. That would have made him happy.
No, I don't. He would have been like, no. But I still continued to put it on him, to be honest.
Okay, so going back, why do you think the girls are having this strong opinion? But I don't think, well, that we put it in their head that boys do this and girls do this. I don't think we've done that. Although saying that, we say that we haven't said it, but that's what they're seeing, right? Automatically, we're the ones that are doing, stuff, cooking in the kitchen or this, that, and the other. Although, obviously, I know with like my husband, he does do cooking when on the odd occasion when he feels like it. Not that it's very often, but maybe they're seeing this role automatically.
See, for me, I didn't, while the kids were young, I didn't go to work.
Mm,
And the only female that they saw going to work was yourself.
mm.
And they didn't see you on, obviously, on a daily basis because we live far from each other. So my mother-in-law and me were at home in the kitchen, whereas my husband and my brother-in-law, they were out to work. So, and one of the things that I did to break the bias was actually go to work. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I returned to work, because I didn't want her to think that it was only men that went to work.
Yeah,
But comes with that, I go to work, I do the housework,
yeah,
I
and everything
still
else on top. Yeah,
everything else on top. And that's what quite a lot of women do face. All
yeah.
right, we are saying that men are pitching in or whatever.
But it's not to the same extent. Even Suk said it once a few years ago when he did the barbecue. Do you remember when everyone was invited and he was doing the cooking and all that sort of stuff because he was doing the barbecue? And everyone was like, "Oh, well done, you done this." Da, da. And he said it himself. I remember afterwards he was like, "Well, had you done it, no one would really comment it apart from how crap the food was probably." But he didn't say that. I did that. But because I did it, everyone was like, "Oh, well done. This, you cooked really well." And it's the same thing. So he had noticed it.
So this makes me think, right, the reason why I said it was because I wanted him to do it the next time. So it's halash, what is it called? Halashiri or something like that. I don't even know the right term for it.
Yeah.
When you big someone up and basically, so they do it next time to encourage them. And that's one of the reasons why I done it. To be honest, when our kids spend loads of time with us, but they spend that 5 minutes, for example, with their father, they remember that 5 minutes. And that's because it's a
Yeah.
break from the norm. And they remember that. That hurts us because we're like, we do everything for you, but yet you only remember that 5 minutes that you spent with your dad, but you don't remember anything that I've done. And we do that as well, to be honest. We've done that with our mum.
Yeah.
And even on this podcast, we speak more about our dad than we do our mum.
That
Have
is
you
true.
noticed that?
Yeah, yeah. I've thought that as well.
Because mum was always in the background
Doing
doing the
everything. Yeah,
day-to-day
yeah,
things.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you only realise that now we've grown up, that we're in the same position. Whereas our dad, he did do a lot for us and probably more than quite a lot of men in his generation. But we only pretty much remember what our father done. But our mum used to say, don't worry about me. Make sure you say thank you to your father.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
I hadn't thought about it so deeply, but now we're discussing it. I think it allows you to pause and reflect. And
But then
sometimes,
what do we do? Because then again, we've fallen in the same cycle where the kids don't appreciate us as much, and it is frustrating. It's not like where we were like, oh yeah, only say thank you to, because I do want my kids to appreciate the fact that I do it. I mean, sometimes I say something to them, and they completely ignore me. Whereas he could say it once and he'll do it, and it drives me
oh
crazy.
God, yes, that is today. So I was shouting my head off today, which I do every day. And as soon as my husband does it, it's like, that's it, get up straight away. But we used to do that to our mum as well. Because when it was cleaning time, our mum was like, clean up. And you could hear that constant clean up. And you're like, let me just phase this out. And that is what it becomes. You start to phasing out it's just background noise. But when you hear something from different from the norm, and that's when the attention comes. And that's why they get up and they run and they better do what the dad says, kind of thing.
But then, okay, so how do we change that? Because I don't want to carry on like this then with that.
Then don't do anything for your child and just do it sometimes. Let them live in their rubbish.
But the problem is, they're never gonna. Nothing's ever gonna get done then. Because I swear, I'm telling you, men don't see certain things. Like I think it's just a genetic thing. In fact, I think there is science behind it. I remember reading something on this. I can't remember what it was, but there is a science behind this. I'll read up and let everyone know and put it on our social media, which is Changing Suits on Instagram and Facebook.
I think that is true, being very sexist here. When I ask my husband to do the Hoover, he seems to not be able to pick up things and do the Hoover.
Yeah,
So
but do
he
you think
does
he's
it.
doing it on purpose so that next time he doesn't have to do it and you do it?
No, I've asked him a couple of times. I think and my dad does the same thing as well. And
No,
my
but
dad,
I can't say that about Sook because he does it quite well. He does it better than I do.
but then he's very particular.
But he doesn't do it that often. But he does do it a lot nicer
There
than
you
me.
go. He doesn't do it that often.
Yeah. So what do
So
we do? Come on, then.
I
Our
don't
kids are
think
not
there's
respecting us because we're doing
we
everything
demand
for them.
respect.
But this is it. Do you know what? With kids, someone else said this to me, where it's like, well, if you is about them brushing their teeth and putting their own clothes on, things like that. If you keep on doing it for them, they won't have that independence of doing it for themselves, right? And it's the same thing here. If we keep on doing things for the whole family, not just our kids, but our husbands and others, then they won't do it for themselves. So how do we change this? And
Well, it's funny. I still feed my kids dinner, and then 9 and 6. But as
Mm.
soon as anyone else comes round, they can eat
I didn't think you
themselves.
fed them. They were fine over the weekend.
Yeah, some magic thing happens when someone else comes round and they can feed themselves.
Yeah.
But on the normal day, their hands can't touch the plate because the plate is cursed.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
We've talked about that, but there's quite a lot of things a woman has to juggle in her daily life and basically life stages that you go through.
I mean, okay, perfect example, and I wasn't going to, it only came to my mind now. It's like with pregnancy and being a mother, straight after being a mother, you don't realize how hard labor is, for example. And yeah, labor, for example. Yeah. So everyone's like, yeah, well, millions of people, women have done it, so obviously don't make a big deal. But it's like, actually, if you think about it, you're literally growing another human being in your body, which is an amazing, I always think that's amazing anyway. And to go through labor, I mean, seriously, women need an award for that, right? So why don't we get awards? Apart from, what is it, the push present? I didn't even get that. I know we've discussed this, but they deserve a bloody award.
I
Every single
agree.
woman that does it.
But do you know something? We're talking about the theme about break the bias. I had to face different things throughout my pregnancy or whatever. So when I was around women that had pushed, obviously, I hadn't done that. I had a C-section.
You did it the
So
posh way.
I did it the posh way, but I'd done it in a different way and I couldn't breastfeed. And so if any women were in a room talking about breastfeeding, I just went silent because I had nothing to add to it. And I just felt like, okay, I didn't belong. So I didn't really mix with that many mothers when I was going through the whole pregnancy thing because I didn't really meet that many women that hadn't breastfed and stuff like that.
But
So
this,
I felt really left out at that
but
stage.
I think there's a turning point because now, if you ever see any of the social media stuff where it does discuss, I read it. In fact, yesterday was something I was reading, where people are, well, the choice. It's your choice how you do it, whether you decide to breastfeed or not, whether you decide to push or have a C-section. The tides are turning. It's not like it was before, where people are telling you what to do. I think if people do, they are seen as judgmental now. I think.
I think that's just on social media, etc., and the bigger picture. But it's still in our daily lives, you still face it because when I had either my son or daughter, one auntie came round and she said, "Oh,
Auntie, yes, what did
auntie,"
Auntie say? Yes.
um, she did come round and say, "Oh, are you giving your own milk?" Now,
What the hell? Is that none of your business, lady?
and to be honest, my mother-in-law kind of stepped in and kind of turned the subject elsewhere because
Do you know
she
what?
knew this woman was judgmental.
Do you know what? That's a really interesting point now you've said that. Because I'm like, I've actually had those conversations where I've instigated that. I always sound like I'm such a bitch on these podcasts where I'm almost said it. But yeah, no, I have said, yeah, maybe I have. And that's maybe not a question we should be asking.
But then,
But do you know what? The reason I ask it is like, if I can give advice for certain things, because obviously, whatever it is, surely that's a nice thing, no?
but I don't think like we've said, oh, maybe we've in the past we've said, oh, maybe we shouldn't ask if you want to get married to someone that's single, or
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't ask about. If we start not asking about things, no one would ever have any conversations.
It's
So I
true.
don't think we can be that mindful
Yeah.
of what we're asking. Otherwise, we'll never talk.
So
So
carry on asking about breastfeeding then, yeah?
no, to be honest, I don't mind if someone doesn't. I mean, if someone asked me, but it was a case of I didn't want that judgment. Hey, you didn't do it.
Mm,
That's the part that I didn't want
fair enough.
because I don't think there's any issue asking, oh, how did your pregnancy go? And I would say, oh, I had
I
a
think it's a nice
C-section.
thing because it brings a bit of. I always enjoy that time after, not only with my own when I had them, but also when someone else has had it. I like that time straight after where you're like, oh, how did it go and how did you feel? And all, because I think it brings women closer. I genuinely do. I think
So
it's a nice sort of moment between
yeah,
people.
it is. But for me, I'm going to sound like such a negative person. But for me, after I had my son, I found it difficult because obviously we were living away in another country and it was pretty much me and my husband. Everything we did was just us. We had no other family support because my son was 4 months when we went back to Norway, because I had him in England and then went back in 4 months. And basically, I was pretty much a mess every day, as in I didn't dress up. I was still in my night clothes because at night time you wouldn't have the, sleep, your full sleep or whatever. So you'd be in your night clothes. I wasn't ready for the day, like mentally or, dress wise. And I did have women that did, friends that said, oh, do you want to go out or whatever? And to be honest, quite a few of them, I think I must have been at a low point. Quite a few of them, after asking a couple of times, detached, and I think I even spoke, like as in stopped speaking to me. And I even spoke to a particular person. I said, "Oh, I'm going through a phase where I'm finding it really difficult to go out and speak to people because I've just been so in this cooped up world." She listened to it, but after that, there was nothing. But I find that same particular person, obviously I'm not going to name names, is putting up posts and saying things like, oh, if you need a talk, always come to me. And I'm thinking, really? I came to you, I got nothing. It's okay putting it on social media, but you didn't support me when I needed you. And we were okay friends. I won't say we were the best of friends. So it's okay saying, yeah, I'll support you when you need it. But you need that person not to put it up on social media, but to actually be there.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because yeah, no, I agree. If someone says I'm having a hard time and they've been open enough to say that, how many of us would then be open enough to listen to what that problem was? I think, especially at a stage when obviously a lot of women go through it, where they're in that, not, it's not even, it might not even be postnatal depression. It might not even be that, because I've been low after my first child. I was a bit low, and I didn't really say it to anyone. But then we had a play group where a number of us had kids at roughly the same age, and all of us now coming out of that play group, and now we all have kids roughly the same age, are saying we are so grateful. And it's not the fact that we spoke about the fact that we were slightly low, but all of us were clearly quite low to actually need a play group just to talk to each other. And it wasn't even personal information, it was just being around other people
Your
that were going
peers,
through the
isn't it?
same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that were going through the same thing.
And that is so important.
Women supporting women is basically what I'm saying, especially when you're going through the same things.
And to be honest, yeah, I don't want to make it sound all negative, because I have had loads of women that from the South Asian community and other communities. I can't just say the South Asian community. I used and still do run workshops and networking groups for women. And I remember this one particular, and you came to this one, Belle. This one particular woman, she didn't know me at all. She was South Asian. No, she wasn't even working at the time. And the networking events that I run are for women entrepreneurs. Basically, she came and she goes, the reason why I came is because I wanted to support you as a fellow South Asian
That's
woman.
nice.
And I
Yeah,
thought, wow, you don't
yeah,
even know me, but
yeah.
you've just seen me on social media and you've thought, I'm going to support this woman. I thought, wow,
See,
how
that is,
amazing is
yeah,
that?
that is good. I like that, because especially when obviously even for this podcast, it's a case of how many people we know that have supported us, and how many of our friends and family haven't supported us. And I think it is really important, whatever someone is doing, when they are doing any venture, wherever it is, or whether it's having a child or whatever the thing is, that we do say, actually, if you need me to be there, I will be there. And I really like that story. I didn't think that was what you were going to say. What I thought you were going to say was when we were at your networking event and all the women were like, "Oh, I know Taj through this, and she's done this," and all of it. Even I was shocked. I was like, "Bloody hell, what the hell has Taj done?" I mean, I didn't know she'd done anything, to be fair. But that's us putting ourselves down, because these women have seen the great things that you've done. I think this is actually something I was thinking when we were discussing what this podcast was going to be about. Just the fact that we, and this is just us, I suppose, and it's not everybody, but generally this happens. where we put ourselves down. We tend to be quite negative on the things we've done, and we never think very much of what we've done and how important it is and the impact it has on other people's lives, until someone turns around and says, what you did was really good. You don't quite understand how good it was. And I think it's important that people do that.
No, but I mean, this same woman, I'm still friends with her. Actually, she's asked me to go for coffee with her, and I met her the event that she came to. How long ago? Probably about 5 years ago. And I remember I went round to her house, and she said so many uplifting things, like, you're a real inspiration. I was like, what? Why? I'm not doing anything. And I was like, wow, that meant so much for someone to share that with you. And like you said, you don't sit back and think, oh, wow, I'm doing this. I'm so brilliant. And we don't credit ourselves enough.
Completely. I completely agree. I mean, one thing when I was doing my course in coaching, I got on really well. Like you said, it's not just the South Asian community. A lot of the people I was doing the coaching with were not South Asian. They were mainly white people. And we did a feedback form on each person. And you read at the end, obviously, you read your own feedback form. And there was so many positive comments. And I was like, oh, I didn't quite realize that people thought this. And I don't think, the nice thing about doing something like an exercise like that is I've still got the paper, and every so often I do look at it and I'm like, oh, actually, I have done this. Of course, the one thing I don't need to look back at is where I need to improve myself. I remember that quite clearly, what the answers were. Yeah. But the other ones, I have to look back at the papers. The point being, only the negative is stuck in my mind.
You remember the bad things, you don't remember the good. It's always judging yourself and putting yourself down. And we need to break out of that.
Completely. No, I do you know what? Coming away from this podcast episode, actually, I think that's something that I am going to look into, because it is really important for our own mental health, but also complimenting others. I mean, I've had the situation. I was telling someone the other day, actually. I was saying to her, I was at a wedding once, and there was a guy there. I didn't know him, but he came out, and I'm like, you've got a really nice smile. And I'm not just saying it because it's a guy. He just had a really nice smile. He might have thought it was a bit weird, but he genuinely did. And little comments like that, I do that on the odd occasion. I mean, one of my friends that I was walking with once, I did say to her, you're really pretty. Like, just randomly. I did actually, and there was a while ago when I said to someone, see, if I wasn't married, I'd marry you. She stopped, to be fair, she stopped talking to me after that.
Really? Oh, I don't know who that is, but okay.
No, I'm only joking. I mean, I don't think she found that too weird. Maybe she did. It's just she did end up getting married, so she maybe have
trying to run away from you. Well, saying that, I think, because I remember there was someone at uni, and he used to live next door to me, because me and my older sister used to live out, and he used to say it's always nice to point out things about how someone makes you feel happy. Now, I'm not trying to be negative, but I am. So I did this, and there was a guy, and he had a really nice beard.
Yeah.
Like, really nice. And he was a white guy. And I went up to him and I said, you've got a really nice beard. And he just gave me the strangest look. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's the way you do it. I don't know, it must be the way you're doing it. Because this
person... No, but I usually compliment people and they like it. But it was just this particular time, I picked the wrong person.
Oh. Well, do you know what? Who cares? You were trying to give out the positivity. It's like that lighthouse. You have to be positive, and that's what you've got to give out, because that's what people will see. Most people will see, obviously.
Agreed. But quite a lot of, I think you and myself were surprised, because there is this whole thing of Asian people don't help other Asian people. But I've seen through this podcast, all the guest speakers that we've had on have been so amazing and so supportive.
Yeah.
To the point of they've thrown that theory, screwed it up and thrown it out of the window for me, because it's been amazing, the support that we've got from our guest speakers.
And also people that are listening. We've had some really good feedback in regards to that as well. Got to put it out there, give the positivity out, and hopefully you receive some back as well, because no one likes a Debbie Downer, right? Although we are a bit Debbie Downers, but it's fine. We've got to spice
No, I think we resolved our issue by now. I'm okay.
Oh, I forgot about that. We'll turn off this and then we'll just carry on with
No, I
that.
can't be bothered. I think I'm done with it.
Okay, so let's finish this podcast here. I'm going to say Happy International Women's Day to all of you lovely ladies listening to this podcast. Give some support to your fellow ladies and just support and give some positivity to the world. And that's my message.
Be kind to yourself. I think we support others, but let's take time to reflect on our lives and see the positive that we are doing out there, because I don't think we do it enough as women.
And on that point, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.